Beyond the Gates for Tuesday, August 5th, 2025 teases that Samantha unwittingly becomes the peacemaker as tensions between Martin and Bradley escalate. The film is set at Anita Dupree's high-profile reunion concert, a long-anticipated event that brings together old friends, estranged family members, and industry veterans under one glamorous roof. Everyone expects an unforgettable night of music and nostalgia. But no one expects it to unfold into bloodshed, betrayal, and long-hidden truths. Martin and Bradley hadn't spoken in nearly 4 years. The air between them, once filled with camaraderie, had since turned toxic. Their shared history was a volatile mix of competition and betrayal. Martin, a respected producer with a no-nonsense demeanor, blamed Bradley for sabotaging his career. Bradley, a charismatic but hot-headed session guitarist, always claimed Martin had manipulated the record label to edge him out of a lucrative deal. Their unresolved animosity reached its boiling point backstage just minutes before Anita's encore performance. Samantha, who was present to support Anita and had ties to both Martin and Bradley, noticed the rising tension immediately. A snide remark from Bradley about Martin's irrelevance in modern music was the spark that ignited the powder keg. Martin retorted with a biting insult about Bradley's washed-up fame riding on nostalgia. It escalated quickly into shouting, fingers jabbing, and security growing uneasy. Samantha, desperate to keep the evening from collapsing into chaos, rushed between the two. Her voice, usually soothing, cracked with urgency as she begged them to stop. But in the flurry of angry gestures and aggressive body language, Samantha was caught in the crossfire. Bradley's arm swung out not with intention, but recklessly and hit her squarely in the side of her face. She stumbled backward and hit the concrete wall hard. The room fell into stunned silence. Paramedics were called. Samantha insisted she was fine, but the bruise on her cheek told a different story. Anita rushed to her side, but her mind was already unraveling. The press caught wind of the incident within minutes. What should have been Anita's triumphant return was now a scandal. Martin and Bradley were removed from the venue before police could arrive. Neither man pressed charges, but the damage was done. This alone would have been enough drama for one night, but the chaos rippled outward. Meanwhile, on the other side of the venue, another fire was being stoked. Nicole Richardson and Leslie Thomas had never liked each other, but tonight, their simmering feud erupted. Leslie, a cunning manipulator known for her poison-tipped tongue, had snuck into the event despite strict guest list policies. This concert was a private affair for the Dupree family and a few invited industry elites. Leslie was neither. She waltzed in, champagne in hand, with a smirk that signaled she was up to no good. Nicole spotted her immediately and tried to avoid confrontation, but Leslie wouldn't allow that. She approached with faux grace and accidentally spilled red wine all over Nicole's cream-colored silk blouse. Gasps echoed. Leslie made a weak apology, barely concealing her glee. Then came the real assault, the verbal kind. "Nicole," she said sweetly, "you always were so good at pretending to belong in places you clearly don't." Nicole, humiliated and furious, clenched her fists. This wasn't the first time Leslie had tried to bait her, but tonight, with all eyes on the reunion and the press already present, it stung worse. Leslie whispered cruel insinuations about Nicole's failed marriage, her career decline, and her relationship with Anita. Every jab was tailored to cut deep. What Leslie didn't know, or maybe she did, was that Nicole had been working tirelessly behind the scenes to support Anita's comeback. She'd sacrificed projects, managed rehearsals, and coordinated the reunion. She was the glue holding the night together. And now it was unraveling because of Leslie's intrusion. Nicole took a deep breath, determined not to give Leslie the satisfaction of seeing her break down. "I hope someday you find something better to do with your time than dragging other women down," she said quietly and walked away. But the damage had been done. Anita saw the stain, saw Nicole's expression, and pieced it together. She didn't say a word, just turned and walked off stage before the final curtain call. Moments later, the lights came up. The crowd, buzzing with gossip, was left confused. Anita's encore was canceled. Backstage, Nicole followed her into the dressing room and apologized. "I should have handled her better. I shouldn't have let her get to me." Anita sat silently in front of her mirror, staring at her reflection, visibly trembling. Finally, she said, "I was going to make an announcement tonight." Her voice was flat. Nicole, confused, asked what she meant. Anita stood, hands shaking. "Devin Hamilton Winters is offering one contract. One. And I was going to tell everyone tonight who he's chosen. But now? After this circus? He's rethinking everything." That bombshell hit Nicole like a freight train. She knew Tracy Tyler and Sharon Winger had both been in the running. Each woman represented a different era of music. Tracy, with her pop soul blend, still commanded a young fan base. Sharon, a country rock crossover icon, was rumored to be Devin's personal favorite. But Anita had been instrumental in convincing him to consider Nicole as a wild card. Now, that fragile possibility was in jeopardy. Anita's disappointment wasn't just professional, it was personal. This concert was supposed to be her legacy-defining moment, and instead, it was collapsing under petty fights and old grudges. She locked the dressing room door and refused to speak with anyone for the rest of the night. Nicole left the venue with a sick feeling in her stomach. The incident with Leslie had stained more than just her blouse. It had derailed everything she'd worked for. The next day, the tabloids were ablaze. Headlines screamed about Samantha's injury, the backstage brawl, and the sabotage of the Dupree family's reunion. Photos of Nicole in a wine-soaked blouse were splashed across gossip sites. Hashtags trended. No one seemed to care about the music. Behind the scenes, Devin delayed his decision. Tracy Tyler's team pounced, releasing a perfectly timed press release highlighting her stability and professionalism. Sharon Winger posted a photo of herself in a studio with the caption, "No drama. Just music." Nicole stayed silent for now. But she was already formulating a plan. Meanwhile, Samantha was recovering at home. Despite the swelling and headaches, she remained focused on repairing the relationships that had fractured that night. She knew the feud between Martin and Bradley wasn't just about egos or contracts. There was a deeper wound, and she intended to uncover it. Samantha reached out to both men separately, hoping to bridge the gap. But both were resistant. Martin blamed Bradley entirely. Bradley, now facing scrutiny for Samantha's injury, avoided calls altogether. Still, Samantha persisted. She began digging through old tour documents, performance contracts, and backstage logs, anything that might explain what really happened between the two. What she found was damning. Years ago, Bradley had accused Martin of embezzling funds during a charity tour. But the paperwork suggested the error may have originated with someone else entirely, someone neither of them had considered, Leslie. Samantha needed proof. And she knew exactly where to look. She contacted Nicole. Despite her own fallout, Nicole agreed to meet. Samantha showed her the documents, and slowly a plan began to form. They couldn't just wait for the fallout to settle, they had to take control of the narrative. They needed Anita's help. And to get that, they would have to rebuild her trust. That meant exposing Leslie, resolving the Martin-Bradley conflict, and proving to Devin that Nicole was the right choice. But time was running out. And Anita was slipping further into isolation with every passing day. Nicole and Samantha weren't giving up. Not yet. Not when everything was still on the line. Leslie Thomas didn't disappear quietly after the concert debacle. Instead, she doubled down. The scandal boosted her online presence, and she reveled in the attention. Her passive-aggressive jabs turned into open jests on social media. She even posted a screenshot of the wine-stained blouse with the caption, "Accidents happen when you're too busy trying to look important." Nicole didn't respond publicly. She didn't need to. She was working with Samantha to uncover proof of Leslie's deeper manipulations. And if they were right, everything would change. Nicole and Samantha managed to trace a paper trail of suspicious transfers during the charity tour Bradley and Martin once headlined. The money, supposedly lost in a logistical mix-up, had been funneled through a dummy company linked to an associate of Leslie's. This wasn't just mischief, this was fraud. With this information, Nicole made a bold move. She requested a private meeting with Anita. Anita, still reeling from the concert disaster, was reluctant at first. Her confidence was shaken, and she had begun questioning everyone's motives. But Nicole came not to apologize again, but to present evidence. She laid everything out on Anita's kitchen table: documents, bank records, and statements. Anita's expression changed from confusion to disbelief to fury. Leslie did this? She orchestrated the money transfers. We think she planted the seed that led Bradley to blame Martin. She's been fanning that flame ever since. Anita stared at the files, then looked at Nicole. And now she's come for you. Nicole nodded. She's made it personal. But we can't just expose her. We have to outmaneuver her. Anita paused, then said, "Call Devin. I'll tell him I've made my decision." The next 48 hours were a frenzy. Anita, now recentered and clear-eyed, called a press conference. The media expected damage control. What they got was a storm. Anita took the podium, composed and direct. She began by addressing the chaos at her reunion concert, but rather than apologizing, she exposed the truth. She detailed the years-long deception involving the charity tour, presented documents proving Leslie's role in the financial misdealings, and announced that she would be pressing charges. Reporters were stunned. Even more shocking was her next revelation. She had selected Nicole to sign with Devin Hamilton Winters. The announcement sent shockwaves through the industry. Some called it redemption. Others labeled it a PR stunt. But the truth was indisputable. Nicole had not only earned the contract, she had unearthed a conspiracy. Tracy Tyler and Sharon Winger both released statements wishing Nicole the best. Privately, Sharon sent her a message: "You earned it. And I've never respected you more." But Leslie wasn't finished. That night, she went live on social media, tearfully claiming she was being scapegoated. She denied the financial allegations, accused Anita and Nicole of ganging up on her, and hinted that she had secrets of her own. "If I go down," she said, "I'm not going alone." The threat didn't rattle Anita or Nicole, but it did alert Martin and Bradley. Samantha arranged a meeting with the two men, presenting the final piece of the puzzle: the evidence of Leslie's involvement in the financial chaos. Martin was stunned. Bradley was silent for a long time, then simply said, "I blamed the wrong man." Martin, eyes narrowed, asked, "And what do we do with this?" "We expose it," Samantha said. Together. They agreed. For the first time in years, the two men stood on the same side. They released a joint statement clearing the air, acknowledging the truth, and expressing remorse for their public clash. They also offered a joint donation to the same charity tour they'd once helmed, promising transparency and renewed integrity. Their reconciliation dominated headlines the next morning. Suddenly, the narrative had flipped. What began as scandal turned into a sweeping comeback story of accountability and healing. But behind the scenes, things remained tense. Leslie's thread about exposing secrets had teeth. She had recording private conversations between Anita and Devin about who would get the contract, disparaging remarks Anita had made about both Tracy and Sharon, and even one where Nicole vented her frustrations over the industry. The recordings leaked. Though they didn't contain anything illegal, the press seized on the drama. Anita's image took another hit. Tracy's fans rallied behind her, accusing Anita of favoritism and backstabbing. Sharon issued a vague but disappointed tweet: "Some things are better left unsaid." Nicole called a press conference of her own. She didn't deny the recordings. Instead, she addressed them directly. "What you heard was frustration. Honesty in private moments. The industry is hard. It pits women against each other. It makes you question yourself. But I stand by every effort I've made to get here. And I will not apologize for wanting this." The crowd applauded. Nicole didn't flinch. She reclaimed her story, and by doing so, reshaped public opinion once again. Meanwhile, Anita contacted Tracy and Sharon personally. She offered full transparency, admitted to making unfiltered remarks in private, and apologized. Sharon forgave her quickly. Tracy didn't respond. But Devin did. He released a statement saying, "Great art comes from truth. I stand by my decision. Nicole is the future." As Nicole began recording her debut album under the Winters label, Samantha turned her attention to recovering her health and her peace. Her injury had been a wake-up call. She stepped back from management to focus on advocacy, launching an initiative that supported safer performance environments and mental health support for artists. Martin and Bradley announced a new collaborative projected documentary chronicling their journey, the fallout, and the road to reconciliation. Anita agreed to narrate. Leslie, now facing an investigation into her financial dealings, disappeared from the spotlight. Her social media was deactivated, her publicist quit, and her legal team went silent. Rumors swirled that she had fled the country, but Samantha suspected she was lying low, waiting for the next scandal to ride. Anita's comeback album, delayed by the chaos, finally dropped to critical acclaim. The final track was a collaboration with Nicole, a song about survival, legacy, and choosing integrity over revenge. It topped the charts for 3 weeks. In the end, the concert that started as a celebration of old memories had transformed everyone involved. Secrets were exposed, relationships tested, and careers nearly lost. But from the ashes came something new, earned, scarred, and real. And somewhere, in the shadows, Leslie listened. She wasn't finished. Not yet. But for now, the spotlight had shifted. Months had passed since the chaos of Anita's reunion concert and the media storm that followed. The industry had shifted. Nicole's album climbed charts across multiple platforms, and her name was now whispered with the same reverence once reserved for icons. But beneath the surface, quiet tension still brewed. Anita had returned to her roots, giving more intimate shows and focusing on mentorship. Martin and Bradley's documentary premiered at a prestigious film festival to standing ovations. Samantha's advocacy group gained momentum. Everything appeared to be moving forward. But then came the invitation. A sleek, anonymous envelope arrived at Nicole's studio. Inside was a single card: "The truth isn't over. Join me." It was signed only with the letter L. Nicole handed the card to Anita during rehearsal. Anita read it, sighed, and muttered, "She's not done." Leslie had been gone from the public eye, but she hadn't disappeared completely. A few murmurs floated through back-channel script sightings, rumors of a memoir in the works, whispers of a tell-all documentary. Her last recorded location was Prague. But now it seemed she had returned. Nicole, Samantha, Martin, Bradley, and Anita met in private to discuss the next move. The message wasn't just cryptic, it was a warning. Samantha insisted they take control again, preempting whatever Leslie was planning. Nicole, still determined to move forward, proposed a bold idea: they create their own finale. They'd gather for a live roundtable, a single broadcasted conversation between all of them, streamed to the public. No PR filters, no handlers. Just truth. "If she wants to expose us," Nicole said, "let's beat her to it." The event was dubbed the Reunion Reckoning. Broadcast across every major platform, it drew millions of viewers. Anita opened by acknowledging past mistakes, her voice steady and unapologetic. Martin and Bradley talked about the bitterness they'd carried and how Leslie had exploited it. Samantha spoke candidly about her injury, her disillusionment, and her resolve to never let silence win again. Nicole, poised and clear, addressed the audience last. "This industry eats its own. But we've chosen to build instead of burn. We've chosen truth. And if that truth costs us fans, contracts, or fame, so be it." In the hours that followed, comments poured in. Support overwhelmed criticism. Even Tracy Tyler messaged publicly, saying, "It takes courage to face the fire. Respect." 3 days later, Leslie resurfaced. Not with a scandal, but with silence. Her long-promised documentary was canceled. Her memoir publisher dropped the deal. An anonymous source claimed Leslie had signed a non-disclosure agreement and quietly settled with Anita's legal team. Whether she'd accepted defeat or simply recalibrated her strategy, no one knew. Nicole, finally free from the shadow of retaliation, announced a national tour. Anita would join her for select shows. Samantha's foundation was named one of the top emerging advocacy nonprofits in the entertainment sector. Martin and Bradley, once bitter rivals, began producing new artists together. The scars remained, but so did the strength they'd earned. In the closing show of Nicole's first solo tour, she invited everyone on stage: Anita, Samantha, Martin, Bradley. As the final note rang out, she addressed the crowd one last time. "We opened a gate. We survived what came through. And now we move forward. Together." The lights dimmed, and the past finally stayed behind the gates.